Hello. This is going to be more just of a show and tell this week. We're getting into spring, so I've got lots of stuff to do in the yard and haven't had a lot of chance to do shooting this week, and work was kind of busy. So I wanted to, and also because it's this weekend is Cocofest, I wanted to do a little talk about the Coco because um, this machine here, the MC10, is not this specific one, but this is my first computer. When I started to learn how to program in BASIC, this was really the first machine, other than my dad did have one of those little portable Sharp. It was branded as a Tandy, but it was a Sharp little computer that I think I remember using a little before he got this. Um, but yeah, so this really was where I cut my teeth. And with that, I was using things like the books that you could get at Radio Shack or other basic books that were for all sorts of platforms. With the nice one with the TRS-81s is that uh, they've all got conversions for all the Tandy color computers, including the MC10. So I definitely programmed another piece of software out of this book. Particular, what was I flipping through here and I saw? I think I did most of these actually because I remember doing the biorhythm and mileage. I think I was just kind of programmatically trying all these just as I learned programming. Um, there were games, yeah, Wari. I remember definitely doing road race. I definitely did obstacle. Probably did all of the games. Um, but yeah, it was a good way to kind of learn how to do basic programming. And then the other thing that I was a big fan of was Rainbow Magazine. We had a subscription to this for a number of years while we had Tandy Cocos. Um, so again, I always love pouring through this every month and both reading the articles, and then of course there were also lots of program listings as well that you could try yourself. Um, and they do different issues. They did an annual beginners issue, I think, and they also had ones on games and then utilities and home improvement and all that sort of stuff. So it was the biggest of the Tandy magazines. Um, so, like I said, my first computer was this. Then my dad upgraded to this, the Tandy Coco 2. And that was kind of the extent of my Coco experience. Again, this is not my original machine. Those disappeared a long time ago, but I managed to pick these up over the years. Um, so these two computers in particular are ones I definitely coded a lot on. In behind them, this is the Coco 1, the original Tandy color computer. Also has a little chiclet style keyboard similar to this. One of the advantages of the chiclet keyboard, and for both of these, although I don't know if it was ever done for the MC10, because this was pretty much a commercial flop, but that's also why we had it, because it was cheap. My dad got it probably a year after it was, or shortly after it was discontinued, and they were blowing them out at Radio Shack. But actually, we had, with 4K of memory, it's not a whole lot on board, but we did have the 16K expansion pack. Um, and I actually have a modern version of that expansion pack now somewhere. I'll have to go find that sometime. But with this, the only way to load software was via cassette tape. Once you got to the Cocos, you could use. Hang on, where's that expansion thing? Oh, it might be downstairs. Anyway, there's an expansion thing you can plug in and you put these extra cartridges in. One of them allows you to do floppy. I have a full setup for this. In fact, you can see it on my banner on my YouTube page. The Coco 3. That's where the color computer evolution stopped. Coco 1 and Coco 2 are basically the same machine, and in fact, there's a couple of variations between these. This original machine, like I said, I think it only came with maybe 4 to 16K. It didn't have a lot of memory. I think it had more than 4, but I'll have to check. Never used this before. In fact, I just picked. This is the last of the 4 color computers that I was missing, and I picked up relatively recently on Facebook Marketplace. This one I picked up in Halifax with the full set, including the expansion pack, a floppy disk drive, a whole bunch of a few discs, actually a fair number of discs, some other accessories, including like a high resolution joystick, a couple of Tandy joysticks, including Black Beauties and another one that's a lot nicer. And this is actually quite a bit of an upgrade from these two machines. Like I said, these two are basically technologically the same. You could upgrade the memory on this and even upgrade the keyboard and essentially make these identical to this. I do notice that this is definitely the heaviest and biggest of the three. This got a little lighter, probably more cost reduced in some ways. And then the 3 is actually the lightest and smallest of the 3, which I found kind of surprising. But this has a advanced video chip called the Gimme. I know there's been some work in trying to get a Gimme X replacement, because any custom chip from this era will eventually die, and they aren't making replacements. So that's definitely one of the challenges of dealing with home computers of these eras, that eventually, especially anything that's off the shelf, you can usually find, but things like sound chips and video chips in particular on a lot of systems were pretty custom. I think that the video chips on these might be a little more, well, I should see. I can't remember if these are custom or if they're actually something off the shelf that Radio Shack used. But like I said, the 3, which is definitely the one that draws the most attention for people who want to start dealing with, who want to play with the Coco these days. It's not nearly as common. It's far more expensive, because this was at the end of the life. The Coco was really in its heyday around the Coco 2, Coco 1. And like I said, this is kind of where I got in. But there are definitely things you can't do on the Coco 2 or 1 that you can do in the 3. Yeah, this is a complete set of Coco, of color computers. And again, this one's kind of a asterisk. It's not compatible with these 3. You can run Coco 1 and 2 software on all 3 machines. Coco 3 software, like I said, only runs on this. And they also did a bit of a configuration for the keys. They moved all the arrow keys and stuff, and the up and down over here and left and right over here. They moved them all over here and added a couple of function keys. But otherwise, basically, it still pretty much is the Coco. Yeah, so I'm not going to fire any of these up in this video. Like I said, I just kind of wanted to, I didn't have a lot of time to really go in depth in a video this week, but I did want to acknowledge Cocofest, which I was going. It's in Chicago every year. Hopefully some year, maybe next year even, I'll try and go. But either case, I just wanted to wish everybody at Cocofest a happy Cocofest, and I'll be watching what comes up online out of it. But yeah, anyway, just another little showcase of the computers in my collection. And these, again, in particular, this is where I got my start as a software developer. As a kid, 10-year-old kid, basically learned to code on this, and teenager on this. So I spent most of my 80s using these as development platforms for me to kind of learn how to code BASIC. And then I moved on to the PC as my dad bought an IBM compatible, and kind of went off in that direction, like most people from the era, I think. But always had a soft spot in my heart, and was really happy to be able to pick these all up and play around with them. I do have some things that I will be, as far as future projects with these. I've got this, which is called the SVI CAS. It's essentially a simulated tape drive that can hook into all sorts of different systems. And I got this, so I've got cables for the Commodore 64 and for the Atari 8-bit line. But what I most wanted to have this for was to be able to use on my MC10 and the Cocos as well, probably. But in particular, I wanted to, because my memory expansion doesn't allow, I have the one that's the 128K expansion, which doesn't have an SD card. There's another thing that plugs in the back here. I'll show you in the back here. There's a bare edge card connector here that you can hook a memory packs. There's one that actually is driven by an SD card, so you can just load it up with software, put it in, then when you fire it up, you can just load right off the SD card. But it has less memory than the one that I got. Mine is 128K. I don't know if there's anybody using that much right now, but I think this is kind of one of the machines that I want to learn to program in assembly for. And when I get to that point, and even with BASIC, I'll be using this, and also using this to load up some stuff. Definitely one of the things that when I do get around to doing a video on this, I want to load up a couple of the old MC10 games that I played when I was a kid, like Lost Word Pinball in particular. That was one that we had that I played with, and I'd like to get that running again, just for my own nostalgia. I've also got, for my Coco 3, I have an RGB. On the bottom of this, one difference between these all just use a composite. So, where is it? No, you could just do TV. So it's just a composite out. Actually, it's just cable out. But you can get adapters that'll turn it into like something close to an RGB signal, and you can convert that into VGA and then even up to HDMI. But with the Coco 3 on the bottom of it, there's an RGB port, and I have a connector that actually connects to my Apple 2GS monitor that gives a much cleaner signal. So when I get around to loading this thing up, I'll show that thing off as well, and kind of show off some of the Coco 3 specific software that's out there too. Again, something I haven't really played with that much. But yeah, and I've also got, as I showed you one Rainbow magazine, I actually have it's not complete, it's probably getting close to 40-50% maybe of all the Rainbow issues. I would love to have a complete set of the Rainbow magazine. I should keep this on camera when I'm patting it. I'd love to get a complete set, and that's certainly one of those things that I'm collecting. The only magazine that I'm collecting is Rainbow, again, just for my own nostalgia purposes, but also because they're great magazines, and they've got all sorts of really interesting stuff in here. So I may do some videos on Rainbow magazines at some point as well. But yeah, I think that's all I wanted to talk about. Like I said, I just wanted this to be a sort of a quick and dirty thing that I can edit and then post and have it up online tomorrow. We're on Friday today, so I usually try and get these out on Saturdays. Thanks for tuning in. Like I said, I just wanted to give you a little sort of show and tell and talk about my own personal Tandy experiences. And hopefully in the coming weeks I'll come back to these and really showcase them off in detail. But anyway, that's it for today. Again, anybody's interested in the Tandy Coco, Cocofest is happening this weekend. I think they live stream some of their talks and stuff. It's the biggest convention dedicated exclusively to the Tandy color computer. But yeah, that's it for today. Thanks for watching, and we will see you next week.